Okay, this will be the fourth edition of the videos on the Radpherd, a project that I'm building. One of the things I want to clear up or maybe explain better is that I feel like this, and several of my friends also feel like this project is not fitting into any category that's out there. It's not a rat rod, it's not a hot rod, it's not a lead sled. So the term I've chosen to use is a farm rod, because some of the philosophy of a farmer is in the way I build it, and actually some of the components are more of things that you would see on the farm. So to start out, I was going to try to explain this a little better because I just showed parts the last time. This is going to be the axle housing and carrier for the dual wheels. This is going to be an independent suspension vehicle, so the axle housing, which is this piece right in here, is quite short. The standard bearing that would normally go in the housing is right up in this area, and then there's going to be another bearing that goes on the back here, and it will actually have some adjustment to give me some toe in and camber. So what you see here is a rod that we use for shortening, narrowing rear end housings. And I've adapted it to work with my project. And to kind of show you how it goes together, this is the axle housing. This will end up going on this axle right here, which you guys saw in the video. I was drilling it to get the holes in the right place. So what happens is I've made up a bushing out of aluminum. This will go inside of the axle housing, if I can get the slide in. Then this is a bushing that we use when we're narrowing rears, which I've also adapted so that it can go in onto the end there, and that way the axle housing is aligned perfectly with the bushing. So before I actually assemble that, I have to put in my adjustment plate, which of course right now, just a second. Okay, now what I was talking about, trying to say is this piece here needs to go on before the axle housing, because it's going to get welded to it. So this goes on. Then we actually take and we have to put another piece in place, which is the mounting bracket for the brake caliper. So that goes on, and I have to make sure I put it on the right way. Then the axle housing goes on. Yeah. I gotta keep it from falling off. There we go. And the last piece is the alignment bushing to make sure that the axle is aligned with the housing. And going back to here, you can see that I clamped it. So, and there's just a few thousandths play in between these two surfaces. This is the bracket for the caliper. And in this case, I've tacked this plate on. So now it's ready to be finished welding after I take this assembly apart. Now, next thing I hadn't explained, but we went by the last video, is the frame itself. What you're looking at back here is just that, the back of the frame. This is from the cab, is right here on back. After I get done working with this, then from this piece of tubing here, we're going to go forward. And there's one of my pieces that I said is just there for looks, to make it look like I bent a piece around that piece of pipe. Oh, that's another thing. With this farm rod, you'll see things like pillow block bearings being used rather than ball joints and things like that you would normally see on automotive. You'll see universal joints that are out of farm equipment like you're seeing right now. And just to show you this piece and how it'll make it look like the tubing goes all the way around as soon as I get it lined up. Once that's in place, I'll weld it up and you won't know that from the pipe that's holding it together. And that's another thing here, is it's made out of pipe, not tubing. It's a lot less expensive, and if you think of it from a farm perspective, you want to go with the cheapest thing possible that'll work for you. In the video before, I showed you a rear end where we were just going to take and cut the axle housings away, and here's that rear. So now, although it's not complete, the bearing will go inside of here instead of at the end of the axle housing. Again, you see diamond plate here, which is another thing you probably would see with a farmer, because he's going to use whatever's laying around. And what I have here is diamond plate as well. And if you notice, the holes are cut really sloppy, if you will, but that's all they're there for, is just decoration or to make it a little lighter. So these are the kind of things that are going to be put in place on this project. Another thing I'll just point out, this piece of tubing here looks like it goes all the way through, but in reality it stops here, and then I cut a short piece and I welded it on here to give that impression. But then, so you couldn't know what I did, I welded a piece of diamond plate in the end of it, so now it looks like it went right on through. The other thing I wanted to mention here is you saw the other axle, short axle and housing. Here you see the other axle mounted to the wheels with the disc brake on it. And that's for me to get numbers for getting the track width correct. So that's what's happening now. Hopefully next week I'll have enough to show you some more. See ya.